97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock.
Hello, this is Michael Spedden, and thanks for joining us today on the 97underground.com Michael Spedden Interviews channel here on YouTube. There have been many requests from both listeners and guests for us to make available our artist interviews so they can listen again or share with others. You can find us on YouTube at 97underground Michael Spedden. Remember, the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show, can be heard on 97underground.com every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Not only do I feature artist interviews, I feature songs you forgot you liked, classics that never die, beloved local, regional, up-and-coming, and underground artists. You can listen anytime, anywhere by downloading our free app from 97underground.com. Just do it. And now, today's episode. And folks, welcome to the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show here on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. Today we sat down with Pete Agnew, bassist from Nazareth. They're going to be coming to Ram's Head on stage in Annapolis on May the 13th, so make sure you get your tickets. Go to nazareth.band or Ram's Head on Stage's website for your tickets. I had a great time talking to him. He was an excellent interview, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So we will see you all next time. Remember, the Back of the Rack every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. on 97underground.com. Also, our replay is every Wednesday morning from 2 to 4 a.m. You can also download the free app and take us anywhere you want to go. Listen anytime, anywhere, and our YouTube page, youtube.com/@97underground Michael Spedden. Enjoy the interview. We'll see you next time, folks. And welcome back to the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show here on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. Today we have a special guest joining us. He will be coming to Ram's Head on stage in Annapolis next week with his band, his storied band of well over 55, 56 years now. We have Pete Agnew from Nazareth with us. Pete, welcome to the show, and it's great to see you today. So glad to see you're going to be coming to Annapolis.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's like you say, it's a coast to coast tour that we're going to do, starting in May, and Annapolis is really near the beginning, so we should be quite perky when we're playing there. You know.
Oh man, I was just looking at your schedule for May alone. You're starting, it looks like May 8th through the end of May. My gosh, it seems like you're covering a different state every day over here.
I think that they're testing us, you know, to see if we can still last the pace, you know. But it is quite a busy tour, and I'm looking forward to it though. So really.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to seeing you here, coming to Annapolis. Have you done Ram's Head on stage before that you recall? I know you've.
I don't think so. No, in fact, I don't think I've played Annapolis before. I can't think. You know, I mean, it's been a long time, and many U.S. tours, but I can't. Annapolis doesn't ring a bell. You know, where if we played before. I mean, maybe we did 50 years ago, but.
Yeah, right.
Forgive me.
I think you'll like it. It's a great venue. It's intimate. It's you really get to see the band and hear the band. It's I really think you'll enjoy your time at Ram's Head on stage in Annapolis. You know.
Yeah.
Yep. So
like I say, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to seeing you here. So it looks like you're starting off here in Rhode Island in just a couple of days here, coming across the pond, going through New England, and then on down this way. And I was, also, and we all know that, you're, the final, original member left in the band, and being the last man, I guess we call the last one still there from that, I mean, what's it like being up there with, I guess the guys aren't really new, and these guys are people that you've known for a long time now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm at least 56, so I've known him for 56 years.
Kind of run into each other over the years, I guess, huh?
No, we've got, Jimmy now, I've been playing, Jimmy's been in the band about 30. I mean, 30 years, you know. So he's he's one of the longest serving members of Nazareth. I can hardly remember playing without him, you know. And
Sure, sure.
Lee, yeah, and Lee as well, my son Lee playing drums. I mean, Lee's been with us 26 years. So,
Hmm.
you know, I've kind of get used to playing with these guys this length of time. It's, like I say, I mean, I loved everything we did in the old days and everything, but it's all like a distant memory to me now, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
the way things are. So, I mean, you never forget what it was like, you know what I mean? But it's a different band, but it's still Nazareth, you know. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I guess I don't know what your local football team is, but it's still the name of the team, you know, even though it's not the same guys.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, I see what you're getting at there. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you've got a really long, again, a lot of history. I was looking at you, just reading about you and everything. You were out with Deep Purple. It looks like in '72.
Yeah.
You had just released. You had worked with Roger Glover. It looks like in the studio as well. And you had toured with them. That was the Machine Head tour, I believe, and that was a huge album for them.
That was our first tour of America.
Hmm.
The very first time we came with Deep Purple. That was before we worked with Roger. It was through
Hmm.
touring with them that we got to know Roger better, and he
Hmm.
eventually became our producer in 1973. But in 1972, that was the first tour for us. We came over, and it was Deep Purple and Buddy Miles. That was the two headline bands, and
Hmm.
it was the Machine Head tour. And like we were doing like 30 minutes, 35 minutes opener kind of thing, you know.
Hmm.
So I'll never, ever, ever forget that tour because if I remember the very first date we played was on St. Patrick's Day and the Soldiers and Sailors Auditorium in Kansas City. And that was our first gig ever in America. I've played that place many times since then as well,
Hmm.
but that was the first gig. And up until then, you know, we'd met, we'd played, we'd met Deep Purple when they used to play it up in Scotland. You know, when they came to tour there, we opened for
Hmm.
them a couple of times there. But so then we became very good friends with them, and
Hmm.
also, you know, and we've been like that with them, well, ever since, really. You know, in fact, we played with them just, I mean, last year there, we did a big stadium in where were we in Poland? I think we were Romania or someplace. I don't know. We run into them every now and again, you know,
Hmm.
doing festivals and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And that's one thing I just find very, very interesting is that, the genre, the hard rock and heavy metal genre that originated, '60s, '70s, and '80s
Yeah,
is absolutely huge in Europe and in South America. I mean, here in the United States, you're doing, usually larger clubs or, a festival at a fairgrounds or something like that. But,
yeah,
I'm reading about, I still see, I've had, bands like, Saxon, a number of other ones out there that are, they're playing larger clubs here when they come to the States, but still in Europe. I mean, that's got to be encouraging. It's really got to make you feel good too, huh?
well, I mean, the European market is far more rock and roll than the States. I mean, I know that sounds daft to you, but Germany is
Hmm.
probably the best for live rock. You
Yeah.
know, that's probably the best country, one of the best
Hmm.
countries in the world. You know, for
Hmm.
that. I mean, and they have many festivals on all throughout the summer,
Hmm.
but also there's still there's still a rock following there. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know what tours in the States now? What is it? You got like Beyonce and stuff like that. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's not rock and roll, whatever it is. You know,
Hmm.
but there's still a lot of young rock bands coming out in the
Hmm.
States. I mean, for instance, there's an agency there. I know, like there's a couple of the agencies in Germany. I mean, they've got like 50 bands on their books, and they're all hard rock bands. You
Hmm.
know, so you know, there's no solo singers. So it's a kind of different. It's a different thing, I suppose. You know, it's a different. It's a different market now. You know?
Right. And it seems like too, I mean, all most of the submissions that I get here at the station are coming from Europe. a lot of the new bands. I'm getting 5 or 6 new bands a week, new albums coming out from all over
Yeah.
Europe.
Uh,
Mainly Scandinavia and the northern European countries, but I do
yeah,
get.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
That's Norway and Sweden.
Hmm.
Definitely, there's a lot. A lot of stuff there. A lot of new bands coming out of there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can't keep up with them all, to tell you the truth. I don't even try. But
Yeah. Hmm.
I just know from especially we've got the summer coming up here now in Europe. When I say Europe, I mean we're talking about Western Europe. But
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of stuff. See, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in Eastern Europe as well that people,
Yes.
obviously,
Hmm.
what's going on with the big ones at the moment. That's not good. But you still got all these places that were never playable before, like 1989 when the wall came down in Berlin,
Hmm.
and Eastern Europe, all the Eastern countries opened up to rock and roll. It was rock music they wanted to hear.
Hmm.
They weren't interested in the pops. They wanted rock music, and they're still like that. I know, I think they're still trying to catch up with all the things they missed,
Hmm.
and they still
Sure.
want them to. They still want to see them now, So it's an amazing amount of stuff that
Hmm.
you're playing in places like Slovenia, Romania, Bulgaria, all these places. All the stands and these places. These places you don't really hear about them over in America, but these are huge. They're huge concerts that go on there. People want to see rock music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. That's yeah, and even too, like I had mentioned before, whenever we get and whenever a publicist sends us a band to interview because they're coming here to the States, you can see the venues they're playing here. Then you look on their schedule, and it's just gigantic venues and festivals and stadiums and things that they're
Um,
doing in Europe. It's just amazing the difference.
so I mean, I don't know. As I say, um, we haven't been touring America as often as we used to up
Yeah, yeah.
in the days because obviously you can't do these big
Hmm.
arena. You were playing basketball arenas in the 70s and 80s kind of thing. You know,
Hmm.
well, you can do them now. You do theaters now if you come over. It's a bit
Hmm.
like Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
You know, you know, you're not playing. You're not playing the Spectrum in Philadelphia. You're playing in the place down round the corner.
Hmm.
So it's that's just an age thing, isn't it? It's I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of the people that were coming to see us in the 70s, well, I don't know if they're still alive. So
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
we're playing to their descendants, but at
Hmm.
least they're still coming.
Hmm.
So you don't expect to be playing, unless you're a Rolling Stones or that
Hmm.
kind of thing. Obviously they still play in the stadiums, but your bands that came, all the bands that run around in the time when we were touring around, guys like Ted Nugent, Foghat, ourselves, Foreigner, all these bands, they're not playing arenas anymore,
Hmm.
but they're still busy playing to the people, the fans, the
Sure,
fans,
sure.
and it's not a young audience, but there's a lot of young people still. There's a lot of young rock fans, if they want to hear rock music,
Hmm.
and they're not interested in whatever it is, the rap or whatever other stuff is going on. They want to hear rock music. They eventually end up listening to us guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They listen to the young rock bands coming out, and the young rock bands talk about their influence, and they'll say, "Oh, we were influenced by Nazareth." Then they come along and see Nazareth. It's a bit like I remember that was a big surge for us when Guns N' Roses came out. When
Hmm.
when they made their first sort of that album was huge album, and of course they used to talk about actually they used to talk about coming to see Nazareth at the time. So that was a big boost even for us, with other
Hmm.
younger people going, oh, we'll have a listen to them now. So
Yep.
you're still getting you still get the front of the stage when we look out from the front rows, if you like. They're still the headbangers,
Hmm.
They're
Yeah,
still the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
They're still that is, but then you look a little bit further back, then you see the people that maybe come to see you the first time, and they're not down the front anymore.
Hmm.
They're a little bit more. They're sitting at a table with a beer in front of their
Yeah,
back.
right, right. Right. Yeah. And that was just something I was going to ask you about too, the influence and the legacy that Nazareth has had. you've influenced a lot of people. One of them was most notably Guns N' Roses, and I can definitely hear from listening to your material and the stuff that was in the stuff that Axl Rose would have listened to coming up in his age group, if you know what I mean. The
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that he would have liked. I can definitely hear where you rubbed off on them, and AC/DC and a number of other ones.
I mean, everybody, whether they even want to be or not, everybody's influenced by
Mhm.
everything they've ever heard.
Yes.
You can't help it. That's what I mean. We go well. I go back to Elvis. It
Hmm.
was that was the man. When I came out, Buddy
Hmm.
Holly and all that stuff. So obviously they're not pertinent these days, but I mean, that's what you grew up with. And
Hmm.
even if you weren't even trying to be like them, which most of us were actually that time, but you take it in. You take in. There's music that you're hearing. You're affected. You're influenced by it.
Hmm.
So I mean, when guys were, especially guys that were going to play in bands,
Hmm.
guys that are not just listening to things, people are going to play in bands, then if they're going to play in a rock band, well, they're going to have heard of us at some point in their life. They're going
Hmm.
to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're going to
Yeah.
say, even if they didn't like you,
Hmm.
they're going to remember you, and they're going to remember the kind of things you did. And they will be influenced by you, either whether it's to avoid what you do
Hmm.
or
Right.
do what you do.
Hmm. Right. Right. So I was also looking at your, some more on your website here. What's it like? You've got your son playing with you now, and there have been a number of other bands around. I think Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen's son, Robin Zander's son has been playing with them.
Yeah.
What's it like? I get it's in a way you're kind of passing the torch to your son, but it's also not really. But what's that like having a son as your bandmate now?
Well, you see, the thing is, I've got five sons, and they're all musicians. Lee plays with me. He's next to all is Stevie. He's a guitar player,
Hmm.
singer, and he's actually bigger than we are, where we are, where I live. Chris is a bass player. I mean, when they were all younger, at the studio I had at the house, I used to play with them anyway because they all played drums, guitar, bass, keyboards, things. So we used to jam all the time. I mean, I really started playing with Lee when he was 10 years old. He was
Oh,
playing,
okay.
and then with his brothers, Stevie and Chris. And so, I've always played with him. By the time Lee joined Nazareth, when Daryl died, our original drummer,
Hmm.
uh, I mean, Lee had been playing, with me for, we'd been jamming for a lot of years before he
Hmm.
joined. So he probably knows how I play better than anybody else on the planet. So he's
Hmm.
when he plays when he's in the band, it's not really it's not really a son and father thing. It's a bass player and a drummer thing,
Hmm.
more than anything. And so I mean, we get on fine. Well, obviously, we've always gone on well anyway. I've gone well with all my sons.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's not been a problem at all. Touring,
Hmm.
obviously, not. He's been with us 26 years in
Right.
Nazareth. So he's also he was always a good songwriter, and even when he was younger, and of course since he's joined Nazareth, he's written a lot of the songs. Well, he's done a lot of songs for us as well. So he's been very useful.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that you've been able to keep this going in your family, and then everybody else joins the not so much being in Nazareth, but they're also musicians kind of joining the family business going along here. That's
Yeah,
quite a
yeah.
tradition, I guess, huh?
If we have, when we have a party in the house, we don't have to hire a band.
Oh.
Just,
Oh, believe me, I'm sure, the Agnew family has their own built-in entertainment and will for years to come, huh?
uh,
Wow, that's something. And yeah, I was just looking at your your merchandise. You've got a lot of great things on your website here. It looks like you're going to have your all of your dates up here and everything. A great photo gallery of some recent tours and everything. And your website is nazareth.band. Um, which I know there were a couple of, that definitely sets you apart because you bring up Nazareth. There is you bring up Nazareth and, Nazareth.band is definitely going to take us to you, and,
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
mm-hmm.
They just recreated that one. What happened was it was a bummer actually last year. Our website got hacked. I mean, I don't know what pleasure these people get, but they
I don't
wrecked
get
our
it either.
I don't know, because there's nothing in it for them really, other than they just wrecked the website, and
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't, we just couldn't get anything on it, and it's a real pain in the ass actually, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
we had to get another website done and blah blah blah, and it takes forever to try and build up the stuff. Now, the problem with it as well, you lose a lot of stuff, a lot of the old, a lot of information, things that was on it before, things that we forget, and because so you can't remember it again to put it on the new one. So it really is it's a nasty thing to do, really, and I mean, if it's not even like robbing a bank, which is not a nice thing to do either. But I mean, at least if they rob the bank, they get some money out of it. I mean, destroying somebody's website, I just don't know what they get out of that. So that's a long story around you talking about the Nazareth.band. That's how that happened. We had to we got to get another one done, and so when it's coming together, it's looking good and it's coming together. But if you go to there, then you'll get onto all our sort of socials if you like.
Yeah, I was, looking through. You have all of your albums listed on your website. Going back to the beginning, from 1971 all the way through, looks like 2022, Surviving the Law.
That's right. That's 25 of them. 25 studio albums, yeah, 25. So we actually, we're right up there, like, with pretty high up in the world for the amount of studio albums recorded. There's not a whole lot of bands done 25 studio albums. We're definitely the most recorded band in Scotland,
I would say, and in probably a lot of other countries as well. That's just amazing here. That's just amazing. And, and another thing too, is that, and one thing that I wouldn't, you've got great album covers.
Yeah, there's some of them I like, some of them, some of them, these things are done usually by votes,
Right.
Once you get something done, and it's like, so if three guys like it and you don't, well, tough. That's
right.
But I've been quite happy with most of them. They're like, keep them, they're different. They keep them interested. Yeah.
Exactly. It does. There's definitely no, you'd referred to Spinal Tap earlier. Nothing that looks like Smell the Glove on here.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was never crazy about the Monster sort of covers. But then again, you see, I've got to watch what I say, because with the fans, that was a big favourite, Year of the Dog and blah blah blah, expecting them. These kind of things. No Mean City. These ones, they seem to love those sleeves, which they weren't my favourites. But,
sure.
I was outvoted, but they are good sleeves. They're punchy sleeves. So we've got a lot of different things. Some of those things and some a bit calmer. But I've quite enjoyed when it gets into the sleeve design, but it's always interesting when it gets round to the sleeve part. Thing is, we're one of these bands, and there's a few of them. We've never got a title for an album until the thing's almost out on the street. We can never ever think of a title. We're absolutely awful at that, and we've been like that ever since the only album that we came away with that we had a title right away was the very first one. It was called Nazareth. That was easy. But it should have been like Led Zeppelin. They were lazy as well. Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2. I think we could have done that, but it sounded a bit boring. By the time you Nazareth 25, you don't really want to do that.
Right. Well, I think Chicago went as high as 16.
Maybe. There you go.
Maybe even higher than that. I'm not sure.
That just shows you where guys have said, "Look, stuff this. I'm not going to. Who cares about the title?" Yeah.
Oh boy. Now, you had mentioned too, we were kind of laughing, we've made reference to Spinal Tap a few times during the interview here. Have you had any, one thing I like to ask is, funny stories. Have you ever had any Spinal Tap moments?
Yeah, well, everybody's had Spinal Tap moments, and you just don't pull them out the air, when. But as you know, I can never tell me a funny story. It doesn't happen like that. Usually if you're having a conversation, there's a lot of really weird things that have happened to us along the way. But I don't. I mean, if you go on forever, if we started down that road, you'd have to make this a 24-hour broadcast. And we'd be, But there's some of the data things when things come up in the news. You remember something that happened because of that these days. I mean, for instance, right now, just give you an example of the daft things that happen to you on the road. You'll see obviously at the moment the Russia-Ukraine war thing's terrible. And we tour Russia and Ukraine all the time. We were huge there. In fact, the last tour we did before COVID was in Russia and Ukraine. We opened in Kiev one night and we played Moscow the next night. So that'll give you an idea. But we played in Belarus as well. And you'll see that Lukashenko, who's the leader of that country, as you all well know, is a complete nutcase. And I better watch what I'm saying. Anyway, his the Presidente. We played there. I remember one time we played in Minsk in Belarus. We were playing there. And we were in the hotel. We were playing the arena, the ice hockey place there, and I got a phone call from the tour manager saying, "Well, we've got some trouble here." He says, "There's going to be a problem." I said, "What's happening?" He said, "Well, Lukashenko, he likes to play ice hockey. He likes to play hockey with his friends and his pals some night in the week, and he's decided that he's playing tonight." And this was the night we were playing. There was 8,000 seaters sold out, and he decided he's playing tonight. So we said, well, that's the concert off. And we said, well, we can't do that because all these people have travelled from all over Belarus to see us. So you think you could say to the guy, you better not do it tonight. No, he doesn't care. He's playing. So they played. And you can imagine these people. This was in February in Belarus. The weather's not exactly Florida,
No.
And, these people are outside till midnight. Outside, tuning this place. And then they had to board the ice, get the stage up, do the whole thing. We played at 2:00 in the morning just to do that. There's a wee story. That's a bit Spinal Tap for you.
Yeah. That's great.
We've had a few dictators to have to deal with in our time.
Yeah. That's another thing too. I've heard of places where people being on tour and they've gotten shaken down by the local authorities. One act.
Happens all the time.
Does it really? Wow.
It happens all the time. And see, the thing is, if I start naming countries, then I get banned from all those countries.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the amount of times that we've been, yeah. That's for the book After I'm Dead.
Okay. That's something. I've had quite a few people now come back around that have been writing biographies, and and a lot of them are folks that are in a little older, and they're pretty much towards the end of their careers. They're more or less retired, and now I had a couple that are they're holding off on a book because they're aware that one of the people that they've written about is now in hospice. And they're waiting for that to end, then they release the book. So
that's the thing. Well, I think that's good though. As you said, the people that are they're all very much older, writing their biographies, and autobiographies, and I can see the point of that. I always that makes sense. It's when I see things like somebody writing their life story when they're 21. I don't get that.
I know. I mean, you would think that somebody, at 21 that have at least another 50 years ahead of them to write about later.
That's right. Because up until then, there's nothing happened. You might think there's lots happened. Believe me, there's nothing happened.
I guess it's all relative.
If you think it's all happened, it's only beginning to happen to you then.
boy, I tell you, if you have enough to write a biography about at 21, just wait till they're 70 or 80.
That's right.
Grief, wow.
Encyclopedia Britannica, or Rocanica.
Exactly. I'm glad that you chose to come on and be with us today here at 97underground.com. And I was looking at your website, Nazareth.band. You've got a big tour coming up. What would you like to plug?
Well, I mean, obviously, that for this next month is very important to us because we come out. Well, what date? I'm leaving here in a couple of days, and we come out and we start in Rhode Island to do 16 shows across America. So we're really, really looking forward to that, and that's the thing. We obviously want to get the word out that we're coming. Get your tickets, come along, get on your rock and roll shoes, and come and see Nazareth. So it's been a wee while. Well, actually, we did a little tour in the States last year, but it wasn't as wide, it was mainly localized a bit more, but so this is covering a bit more of the country,
Right.
So it's going to be a test for the tour bus, let me tell you.
Oh yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, it's a small world. Yeah. I was just at the venue that you're going to be playing next week, Ram's Head on stage. LA Guns played, and your opening act from last year was their opening act. They were called Red Rain.
All right. Oh, that's right. They played with us. That's right.
Yeah. Great guys, and they spoke very highly of Nazareth.
That's right. They played quite a few shows with us in the last tour. So no, I'm looking forward to this gig that you're talking about. The name keeps coming up, and and as I say, we've never played there before, so it's going to be good. I like playing places for the first time.
Right. Well, again, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate your time, Pete. And remember,
it's a pleasure, Mike. Believe me. All right.
We've got Nazareth coming to Ram's Head on stage in Annapolis on May 13th, Tuesday, May 13th, and you can get tickets. There are links to tickets on Nazareth.band and also on the Ram's Head on stage website. So make sure you get your tickets. And Pete, thank you again for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And
anytime.
Excellent. Yeah. And we will see you next week, hopefully. Listeners, get out there and see them, Nazareth at Ram's Head on stage.
Well, come along and say hello anyway. We'll see you there, okay?
Yep. And thanks again for listening to 97 Underground, the Michael Spedden interviews, and we hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember, download the free app from 97underground.com so you can listen to us wherever you go. The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show, can be heard on 97underground.com every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Listen anytime, anywhere.
Metal.
Worldwide metal, 24/7. 97 Underground.